So guys, it's the end of 2023. I decided to make a list of my top 10 movies of this year, and I'll be honest with you guys, there weren't that many movies that I cared about watching in the theaters. A lot of the movies came out on streaming, which was great. I was able to watch them there, but most of the other movies that came out in the theaters, they weren't really that good. So the movies that made it on this list just really stood out to me. And just a warning, these are my movies that I think are good. This isn't me saying that if someone else has any other movies that they liked, the reason that they didn't make the cut is because they just weren't movies that I liked personally. So don't take any offense in this. It's just my personal opinion on the movies that I liked, and I'll be going in order from the bottom of the list. I'll make my way up to number one. And I think number one might be a bit shocking for some, probably not, but we'll see. So my number 10 movie of the year, which actually came as a shock to me because I don't really like comedy. I like comedy, but I don't like, I'm just gonna come out and say, I don't like black comedy. I really don't. Black comedy movies always come off as super cheesy to me. I never really laugh at the jokes. I feel like they try a bit too hard when it comes to comedy, but the one movie that really stood out to me was The Blackening. And it's funny because I skipped this movie. I didn't watch it in theaters. Me and some friends got together and we decided to watch this movie on streaming, and it was actually pretty hilarious. I wish I went to go see this movie in theaters, just how good it was. It really caught me off guard just how funny the movie actually was, and it was cheesy. I'm not gonna lie, some parts were very cheesy, but it was enough entertainment throughout the movie that made me laugh. Some parts caught me off guard, and the cast was just amazing, honestly. There wasn't a single person on the list where I was just like, okay, this movie would have been fine without this person. No, everybody did a really good job on this movie. Like I said, this movie really just caught me off guard. I really wasn't expecting it, and it's a good thing that it made it on my top 10 because, like I said, I don't really like comedy like that. So the movie was just that good to be able to make it on my top 10. So the next movie on my list is Evil Dead Rise. And honestly, I really wasn't expecting that much from this movie. I liked Evil Dead. I liked the first one. The originals, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't really care for old movies. I'm just going to come out and say it. I've said it before. Old movies, I don't know. It might be an age thingy. I'm 25 years old. So going back and trying to watch all these old movies, it's the quality, some of the things that happen in the movies, I just can't sit through it. So, but this one was really good with it being modern and everything. The opening sequence in this movie had my entire jaw dropping. And so I like the movie so much that I watched it maybe like 6 times. I even bought it on Amazon Prime just because, and I did the early thingy because I really wanted to watch this movie again without having to pay for it in the theaters. So that's my number 9 movie of the year. Again, it's a really good movie. If you haven't checked it out and you love horror films, watch it. Like, it's really just that good. The next film on my list was tough for me putting it in this position because originally it was my number 1 movie of the year, but then more movies started coming out, and then it started slowly making its way down, and I was like, oh dang, like this movie wasn't really as good as I thought it was. But it was good. It's just that these other movies came out after it. They just turned out to be way better, and this movie happens to be Talk to Me. And it's funny because I used to watch these guys on YouTube, Raka Raka, and I watched all of their stuff. And when I found out that they were producing a movie, I was like, what? Really? And then I saw this trailer for Talk to Me, and I was like, whoa, this movie looks amazing. And when they said that it was made by these twins, I was like, there's no way these guys made this movie and it got picked up by such a big studio. And so, of course, I went to the theaters to go and watch it, and this movie was terrifying. It wasn't like a jump scare heavy. It was more like eerie, creepy things that was happening. And I just really liked it. The atmosphere, everything that they did with this movie was great. It's probably might be my favorite horror film of all time, and that's knocking out Hereditary. And that was tough to beat. Unfortunately, that knocks out all of my horror films of this year. They were good movies. They just weren't as good as all the other movies that came out after it. So I really expected to have way more horror films on this list, but the other movies just happened to beat these ones out. So the next movie on my list is Creed 3. And I'll be honest, I didn't like the first Creed. I didn't really care that much about it. I saw the second movie when I saw that the third movie was coming out, and I was like, okay, I like where this is going. Then I found out that this third movie was being directed by Michael B. Jordan himself, and I was like, whoa, I'll check it out. I'm excited to see it. So I ended up watching the second movie, and then that was good. And then I made my way to the third movie. That was really good. Jonathan Majors' character, one, he's way bigger than I thought. I really wasn't expecting him to be that big for this movie. I'm assuming he did some kind of training specifically for this movie, or maybe it was for some Marvel stuff. But wow, he looked amazing. Same thing with Michael B. Jordan. You know, he looked good as always. And I just wasn't expecting this movie to be as good as it was. I know in an interview he talked about how he got a lot of inspiration for his fights from anime. And I was like, okay, like, what does he mean? So when watching the movie, I started to really see what he meant by that. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. The storyline was really good. Nothing was really, no, there weren't really any moments where I got bored throughout the movie. It was just really good. It had some good music too. That was some really good, some nice montages. There was one montage where I was like, dang, this is a long montage. But besides that, you know, this movie was just really good. I think everybody should check it out, despite all the Jonathan Majors things that's going on right now. It's just a good movie. I would check it out. This next movie holds a very special place in my heart. As a kid, I grew up playing racing games. I grew up with cars, those like cars that you could drive in as a little kid. I don't know what it is, and I like fast cars. Currently, you know, I drive a Z. Yeah, I said fast car, and I'm talking about a Z, but you know what I mean. So I grew up with cars, I grew up watching cars, and I grew up playing racing games. And Gran Turismo, originally when I found out that they were making a movie for Gran Turismo, I thought that they were going to do what they did for the Need for Speed series. And I'll be honest, that wasn't a good movie. The Need for Speed movie was really bad. It was just as bad as how the Fast and Furious movies are going forward. So when I found out, and I was like, okay, I'm a little worried how this movie is going to turn out. But then when the movie came further along, they said this movie is going to be based off of a true story. And I was like, oh. And then I found out that, yeah, the movie is going to be based off of a true story about a guy who played video games for, like, that's just what he liked to do. And he knew the tracks and things in Gran Turismo, and then he was invited to do this big race with a whole bunch of other gamers and stuff like that. And that really, I was like, okay, that's a pretty good premise. Like, I would like to see how this turned out. I knew nothing about this story going forward, so me watching the movie was me learning about it. And then, of course, afterwards, as most people probably did, when they left the movies, they were like, let's go and look into all the stuff that they're talking about and see the story for ourselves. And it was pretty cool. Pretty sad story, and I resonated with the guy a lot because, you know, I play games competitively and I like cars and stuff like that. And at a time in my life, I did want to do something like that for a living. It just wasn't in my, like, it just wasn't working out, basically. And so I moved on to other things. And so I really liked the movie. A lot of people skipped this movie, and I'm a little surprised why not many people went to go see it. I would go check this movie out. I think it's on Netflix. That's where I last watched it again. And so, again, this movie was just really good. I would check it out for myself if I were y'all. This next movie is a bit controversial. I don't understand the hate that this movie got, but I really liked it a lot, and that is Blue Beetle. I'm tired of Batman. I'm tired of Superman. I'm tired of Wonder Woman. I want them to include more younger heroes and people that others don't really know, because like we have like 6 different Batman movies and they keep retelling his story, changing the actors. It's getting overplayed and I'm tired of it. Same thing with Superman. We need something fresh, and Blue Beetle was that. And I'm not sure how many people read comics, so I already knew who Blue Beetle was going into it, and I was very excited for them to tell his story. And of course, it's the Jaime story. So he's the one that's the most popular. Everyone knows who he is if you're a fan of DC. And I just thought that the movie was really good. George Lopez really stood out for me as well. I wasn't so sure about how casting him would help with this movie, but it ended up working. a lot of my friends who I talked to who saw this movie didn't really like it that much. They said, oh, who's this guy? We don't care about him. How does he fit in with like Batman and Superman and stuff like that? And I feel like that's the main problem with DC right now is they keep giving us the same people, and that's all people want to see now. And they messed up way early on with that. So now it's going to be hard to introduce all these young heroes. And I personally would just like to see more young heroes like Blue Beetle. Of course, we got that. I'm excited. Static is another one that I really wish DC would push. Their comics are doing really good right now. I just wish that he would either get a new animated series or a live action show or a live action movie. No, a live action movie. I don't want a show with Static. I know that Michael B. Jordan was supposed to be producing this Static show on HBO Max. There haven't been any updates on that recently, so I'm not too sure. But anyways, Blue Beetle was really good. It's a nice introduction to his character, and a lot of young people really liked him too. And it's a very modern film. I just think that it's a really good film to get a lot of new people into it and to get a lot of new fans into the series. This next movie really caught me off guard. I originally went to go see this movie with a friend, and I wasn't expecting anything from this movie. I was just like, yeah, she was really excited to go see this movie, so I was excited to go see the movie with her, and we ended up going, and that movie was Barbie. That movie was fantastic. Like, I'm not even kidding. Everything about the movie I liked. There's a lot of people who didn't like this movie because they felt like it was a movie for women, and it's like no guys will be able to enjoy this movie, and it's like a women empowerment movie, which it is technically a women empowerment movie, but if that's all you got from the movie leaving it, you didn't watch the movie. You didn't understand the message. The movie was really good. It's for everyone except kids. There were some mistakes. Some parents took their kids to go see this movie because they thought that it was a movie about people playing with like Barbie dolls. For example, my mom. My mom went to go see the movie and she left disappointed because she's like, I was expecting to see like little girls playing with these Barbie dolls and they're coming to life and things. No, that's not what the movie is at all. I'm just assuming people didn't really watch the trailer for this movie because one, it has Margot Robbie in it and Will Ferrell. It's not a kid's movie, let's be honest. But the Kens really shocked me too, and Ryan Gosling's song, I'm Just Ken, I've listened to that song so many times on repeat. It was just that good of a movie, it was just that good of a song. Ryan Gosling's character really caught me off guard too. He really surprised me. I thought this was gonna be my #1 movie again, but then more movies started coming out, and then I was like, oh no, these are my #1 movies. And yeah, it was just, Barbie was just a good movie. If you haven't watched it yet, definitely go and check it out. These next 3 movies were tough putting them into their places because I liked every single one of them. I might even say I liked all 3 of them equally, but one of them kind of stood out a bit more, probably because it's more recent. But these next movies are my top 3 movies that are a must-see. Everybody should watch these movies. And number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This movie, I knew it was going to be good. From the trailers alone, I just knew that I was going to love this movie. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. And knowing that this was going to be their last movie, I was like, okay, I'm watching this day 0. I have to go see it. And it was just great. I saw it on a Thursday night before it came out on like to everyone. And my entire theater was quiet throughout the entire movie. It was such a sad and emotional, action-y movie, and it was comedic. It's a Marvel movie. They had to throw in their comedic things, but it wasn't overplayed like how the Thor: Love and Thunder movie was. That was god awful, too much comedy. But Guardians of the Galaxy did it in such a good way to where you were entertained, you were laughing, you were sad, all kinds of emotions throughout the entire movie, and it just never missed a beat. I thought that this was going to be my #1 movie, but again, the other 2 movies were just so close together that it just made its way on to number 3. That's not saying it's not, a really good movie, because it is number 3 on my list, but I think that these other movies did a way better job for me. This next movie also got a lot of controversy. I liked it. I don't really care about what other people think. I'm able to form my own opinions when it comes to movies because, you know, people are like, oh, this movie got a lot of reviews on how the ending was. And it's like, okay, who cares? Like, it's what I feel. And that movie is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I love Miles Morales. I love Gwen Stacy. I like the characters, the animation style. Everything about this movie was great. The pacing. The only thing that I feel like they could have added was like maybe one more fight scene, but it's still fine without it. I enjoyed it a lot. Like, I've watched this movie so many times, and especially now that it's on Netflix, I've watched it like a few more times with friends. They enjoyed it, and it's just a good, gosh, it's such a good movie. I would love to see a live action Miles Morales. I know it's coming, maybe in this third movie that they're gonna release, but, and I'm a little, I wanna know who they're gonna pick for the Miles Morales. So, again, this was my number 2 movie of the year. I can't wait for the third movie, and I know it got pushed back because, you know, the strike and everything, but hopefully it comes out soon so we don't have to wait a few more years for this one to come out. If you guys haven't already, head to Netflix, please check it out. And of course, you know, I'm rocking my Miles shirt right here. So just letting you guys know how much I love Spider-Man, well, Miles specifically. So my number 1 movie of this year might come as a shocker to some. Some people still haven't seen this movie. I would highly, highly, highly suggest going to watch this movie if you can. I'm not sure if it's still in theaters right now. I've seen it maybe 4 times, but my number 1 movie of the year is Godzilla -1. Now guys, let me tell you, Godzilla has been in kind of a strange spot recently, especially with how the way Legendary is treating him as a character, but the original creators of Toho have really stood out. They've really done an amazing job with this one. I saw this movie maybe 3 times now since it's been in theaters. I took my mom to go watch this movie. She enjoyed it. She was a little shocked because, you know, you have to read. It's not in English. And I watch anime, so of course it was no problem to me. But she doesn't really watch anime like that. And she's been a big fan of Godzilla since the beginning as well. So I just knew that she was going to like this movie regardless. And she didn't fall asleep. I was really expecting her to sleep during this movie, but she didn't. And she enjoyed it a lot, and we talked about it for a long time after it came out. And I just think that everybody should go give this movie some love, go watch it. This movie was made with a $15 million budget. That is a small budget for a movie, especially the way that it looks. Now, there are some, like, you can definitely tell that it was a bit on the cheaper side, some of the effects. I still think that for its budget, it looks great. I just wish that they got a way bigger budget for the movie. There's no telling what they would have been able to do. But they've proven that with a small budget as they were given, you can still make a great movie. In the past, people haven't been really good with making you care for the characters in these Godzilla movies or like Kong. But this time, I cared about every single character in this movie. I wanted no one to die. I wanted everyone to make it out. And I just wasn't expecting to care for the characters so much. And again, you know, Godzilla isn't in this movie as often as you would think it would be in. It does focus a bit more on the characters as the other movies have been in the past, but they've done a really good job with this compared to the other ones. Because the other ones, the Legendary Pictures movies, I don't care about any of those characters. It's just like, if one of them were about to die, it's like, all right. So they did a really good job. This is my number 1 movie of the year. I'm going to be watching it over and over again, and I can't wait for it to come out so I can purchase this movie, because this one I'm getting a hard copy of. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my top 10 movies of this year. And let me know what your guys' top 10 movies were this year. What movies really stood out to you in 2023? Or what movies didn't really stand out to you? What are your top 10 worst movies? I might do a video on that. I'm not too sure. That's a lot of movies for me to go through. But I'll check it out and see. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, go check out some of my other videos. Go look at some of my movie reviews. And I'll see you guys in the next one.